Was the world truly destined to repeat itself, a broken record of ambition, betrayal, and crumbling empires? Did the echoes of ancient battles still reverberate through the sands of time, shaping the destinies of men and empires alike? Let's dive into the chaos of the 5th and 6th centuries, a period where the sun seemed to set on one world while a new, fractured one was desperately clawing its way into existence. Forget dusty histories and dry dates. This is a tale of shattered thrones, desperate alliances, and the unsettling realization that even the mightiest civilizations could be undone by a single, devastating defeat. The air in Persia hung thick with the stench of defeat. Yazdijerd II, a shadow of a king, had succumbed to a succession struggle, leaving his son, Peroz, to inherit a kingdom riddled with famine and besieged by the Hephthalites, those relentless nomads who'd carved a bloody path across the Kush Mountains. Imagine a battlefield choked with the screams of dying men, the thunder of hooves, and the sickening crunch of steel on bone. That was Peroz's reality. He'd marched into Hephthalite territory expecting a swift victory, only to find himself trapped in a pit, a gruesome tableau of shattered armor and broken dreams. The Persian army, a seemingly invincible force, vanished beneath the earth, swallowed by the cunning of its enemy. The king himself, a legend in his own time, became a nameless corpse lost to the sands of history. But the story doesn't end there. The Hephthalites, emboldened by their victory, didn't just retreat, they seized Khorasan, a vital Persian province, effectively holding the kingdom hostage. A staggering tribute, 30 mules laden with silver, was demanded, a sum so enormous it took 2 years to amass. It was a humiliation, a brand seared onto the Persian soul. And then the unthinkable, Peroz's son Kavadh was captured, held captive in the Hephthalite court as a guarantee of payment. Talk about a bad vacation. He spent 2 years enduring the indignity of servitude, a constant reminder of Persia's shattered pride. Then came the twist. Kavadh, a man with a peculiar penchant for Roman education, more on that later, discovered a surprising talent for diplomacy. He forged alliances, seduced Hephthalite women, and eventually managed to secure his release. But the victory was short-lived. A new wave of civil war erupted, fueled by Kavadh's radical social reforms. He'd begun to dismantle the traditional hierarchy, redistributing wealth, challenging the privileges of the nobility, and even attempting to equalize the status of men and women, a truly revolutionary concept for the time. Naturally, the Persian aristocracy wasn't thrilled. They rose up, deposed Kavadh, and dragged him off to the Fortress of Oblivion, a legendary prison where even mentioning a prisoner's name was punishable by death. For 2 agonizing years, he languished in darkness, a forgotten king, until a daring escape orchestrated by his sister, disguised as a man, finally freed him. Meanwhile, across the Eastern Roman Empire, Anastasius, a man with one black eye and one blue, was wrestling with his own set of problems. He'd ascended to the throne through a rather unconventional marriage to a deceased emperor's widow, a union that earned him the nickname the Two-Eyed. His reign was characterized by a surprising lack of ambition, a preference for quiet administration, and a tendency to delegate difficult decisions to his subordinates. And yet, he found himself facing a crisis of unprecedented scale, the relentless advance of the Slavs. Imagine a tide of barbarians pouring south from the Danube, their faces grim, their eyes filled with a hunger for land and plunder. They were the Slavs, a people of unknown origins, speaking a language distinct from the Germanic tribes that dominated the north. They were not warriors in the traditional sense, but they were relentless, adaptable, and utterly determined to carve out a new home within the Roman Empire. The Romans, preoccupied with Persia and the threat from the west, were slow to respond, allowing the Slavs to establish themselves in the Balkans, disrupting trade, raiding settlements, and gradually eroding the empire's defenses. But the Slavs weren't alone. They were joined by an even more formidable force, the Bulgars. These nomadic warriors, hailing from the heart of Central Asia, were masters of horsemanship and warfare. They were led by Khans, tribal chieftains who commanded vast armies and possessed a fierce, almost fanatical devotion to their cause. The Bulgars swept down from the north, overwhelming the Slavs and establishing their own kingdom in the Balkans, further complicating the Roman situation. Now, let's rewind to Persia again. Kavadh, after his escape from the Fortress of Oblivion, had a brilliant idea. He'd marry a Hephthalite princess. It was a strategic alliance, a desperate attempt to regain his throne and secure the loyalty of his new allies. He returned to Ctesiphon, a conquering hero, and seized the throne once more, but his reign was short-lived. He'd embraced a radical religious philosophy, Mazdakism, which advocated for communal ownership, the abolition of private property, and the equalization of wealth. It was a utopian vision, a radical departure from the established order, and it terrified the Persian nobility. They staged a coup, murdered Kavadh, and replaced him with his brother Zamasp. Zamasp, a pragmatic ruler, quickly abandoned Mazdakism, restoring the old order and crushing any dissent, but the damage was done. Persia was weakened, divided, and vulnerable. And then the Persians turned their attention to the west, launching a devastating invasion of the Eastern Roman Empire. They sacked Amida, a vital city on the Euphrates River, massacring its inhabitants and plundering its treasures. It was a brutal display of Persian power, a chilling reminder of the empire's military might. But the Eastern Roman Empire wasn't about to roll over. Emperor Anastasius, despite his lack of ambition, proved to be a shrewd and resourceful leader. He skillfully exploited the divisions among the Persian nobility, playing them against each other to prevent them from uniting against him. He secured alliances with the Eastern Slavs, turning them into mercenaries against their Persian enemies. And he even managed to convince the Bulgars to abandon their raids on the Balkans and join the fight against Persia. The war dragged on for years, a bloody stalemate that consumed vast resources and devastated the region. Finally, exhausted and depleted, both empires agreed to a treaty, recognizing Amida as a Roman city, but leaving the Persians in control of the crucial Caucasus Gates, a strategic pass that controlled access to the north. But the story doesn't end there. As the Persian and Roman empires battled each other, a new threat emerged from the west. The Lombards, a fierce Germanic tribe who had migrated south from Scandinavia, pushing the Avars and Slavs before them. They descended upon Italy, laying waste to the countryside and establishing their own kingdom. The Eastern Roman Empire, already stretched thin by its wars with Persia and the Slavs, was ill-equipped to deal with this new challenge. And then there was Benedict of Nursia, a figure who would dramatically alter the course of European history. Let's return to Rome, a city drowning in decadence and disillusionment. Young men, lured by the promise of wealth and prestige, flocked to the capital, seeking to emulate the grandeur of the Roman Empire. But the lifestyle of a Roman scholar was not what it once was. The pursuit of literature and philosophy had lost its luster. The wealthy indulged in extravagant displays of wealth, neglecting their civic duties and embracing a life of dissolute pleasure. The once great city was becoming a den of corruption and moral decay. One such young man was Benedict, the son of a Roman nobleman. He too dabbled in the pleasures of the city, indulging in the noise and licentiousness that surrounded him. But he grew increasingly disillusioned, realizing that the pursuit of worldly pleasures offered no genuine fulfillment. He was exasperated by the superficiality of his peers, the emptiness of their ambitions, and the moral decay of the city. In a moment of profound clarity, he abandoned his studies and fled to the mountains, seeking solace in the wilderness. He found refuge in a cave near Subiaco, a remote village east of Rome. There, he embraced a life of solitude and prayer, seeking to understand the mysteries of God. He heard the teachings of Christianity, a faith that offered a path to salvation and a sense of purpose. He became a hermit, a man devoted to prayer and contemplation. News of the hermit in the wilderness spread quickly. Soon, monks from a nearby monastery, struggling with their own spiritual struggles, sought his guidance. They asked Benedict to take charge of their community, to restore discipline and order to their lives. And Benedict, a man of remarkable wisdom and compassion, agreed. He transformed the monastery into a model of Christian community life, emphasizing simplicity, humility, and obedience. He established a strict rule of life, regulating every aspect of the monks' activities, from their meals to their prayers. He believed that the pursuit of virtue was the only true path to happiness. His rule, known as the Rule of Saint Benedict, became a cornerstone of Western monasticism, influencing the lives of countless monks and shaping the spiritual landscape of Europe. It was a radical departure from the decadent lifestyle of the Roman elite, a testament to the power of faith and the pursuit of a higher purpose. It was a law for a kingdom removed from the political struggles, a conscious attempt to bring Christian practice back to the realm where the Indian and Chinese monks dwelt. And so, the story of the 5th and 6th centuries unfolds, a tapestry woven with threads of war, betrayal, and spiritual awakening. Empires rose and fell, religious movements spread, and individuals sought meaning in a world consumed by chaos. Was it all simply a prelude to the inevitable decline of civilization, a tragic cycle of ambition, conflict, and decay? Or was there something more profound at play, a deeper truth about the human condition, revealed through the rise and fall of empires and the lives of those who dared to challenge the status quo? Perhaps the answer lies not in grand narratives or sweeping generalizations, but in the quiet stories of individuals like Benedict of Nursia, who, in the face of overwhelming darkness, sought to illuminate the path towards a more meaningful and virtuous life. The echoes of the past may continue to reverberate through the sands of time, but it is up to us to choose which stories we listen to and which voices we amplify. It's a question that still lingers, doesn't it? Will the next chapter be a repeat of the old mistakes, or will humanity finally learn to build a better world?